Hello guys, welcome back again. I'm going to be talking about the early age nation of Agartha. Now I've made a video previously for Dominions 5 on the middle age version of Agartha, and now while some things will be the same between that one and this one, between each incarnation and also between each game, a lot of things change with Agartha throughout the ages. Probably this is one of the few nations that changes very significantly from age to age. Some nations don't change too much. Previously I did a video on Pangea, and that nation doesn't really change that much between ages. A lot of things will carry over from age to age. Agartha changes quite a lot. And not only that, the lore of Agartha is probably one of the most interesting in the game as well. This is a total fantasy race. I mean, if it's based off of any kind of mythology, real-world mythology, I'm not really aware of it, other than the word Agartha itself as some kind of mystical underworld place of some sort, like the inner earth or something like that. If you ever know about the hollow earth kind of theory or something like this is where this comes from. But in terms of this nation itself, of these kind of gigantic salamander men, these half-giant salamander naked people, I don't believe this is based off of any kind of mythology. I think it's just a pure fantasy race. But either way, let's get started. So these gigantic cyclops living underground, they're very ambitious. They want to kind of conquer the world above. But as you can see, if you've ever seen middle and late age, they kind of fail. By middle age, they're almost going extinct. There's very few of them left. And by the late age, they're all extinct. There's only just their undead corpses, which the humans who now live in Agartha will resurrect to fight for them, and so on. But by early age, they're doing quite well. You can see your whole lineup is these pale ones, which are these semi-giant or like giant units. You have these smaller ones who are just like the normal pale ones. These are kind of your very basic troops. They're only a little bit bigger than a normal human. Normal human is size 3. These guys are size 4. And then you have your ancient ones who are all sacred and all size 6. So they're all quite big. And you can see here that you have quite a lot of sacreds as Agartha. This is one of the, I guess you could say it's one of the upsides of this nation, because you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different sacred recruitables, and 4 of these are recruit anywhere, or I guess 3 of these are recruit anywhere. One of them can be recruited in anywhere underwater. But let's take a look at some of these guys in a minute. We also have our commanders. Again, all the big guys, all the ancient ones are sacred as well. So you have the sacred ancient lord. You have also these mages and priests as well, who are all sacred. And then you have the 3 oracles who are all sacred. And these guys each are more or less the same, except they have a different specialization in one of your kind of national magic paths. Now, the number one magic path for Agartha, of course, is Earth, being an underground, deep Earth nation. And then you also have specializations in fire, water, and death. And all of these have different uses for you. And they're all something you should be taking advantage of if you want to be successful as Agartha. So let's get started. Let's look at the troops first. Now, you may think like, wow, this is great. I have so many giant units. Like for me, I love giant nations. I love Makone. I love a lot of the giant nations. And this looks like a cool giant nation too. Look, you got these big guys here. They look tough. You know, they got great strength. They have like decent armor. Their armor's not too bad. They got all bronze and stuff. You can get these like naked guys, but you know, I wouldn't get them. You do have guys with quite a lot of armor. They got shields. You know, that's pretty uncommon for the early age. They even have a hat. Like a lot of early age nations, even some middle age nations, haven't figured out how to wear a hat yet. So the fact that these guys are a little bit around above the curve is pretty good. So you'd think that these guys are quite nice. This guy even has a glaive, which is a great weapon if you've played Tenchi. But the problem is these guys really suck. And even your big giants, like for example, this guy, Ancient One, he's your kind of go-to recruit anywhere sacred. He looks great, but his skills are just terrible. Let's take a look at the pale ones first. Now, there's not much difference between these guys. They're all just kind of the same unit, just with varying degrees of armor. You have the naked guy. You have the guy with a bit more armor. Or sorry, this guy's with full armor and spear. This guy's like a little bit less armor to save money, I guess. And then you have these wet ones. What's the difference between these guys? I guess, what's the difference in this guy? This guy has a shield and this guy doesn't. Okay, that's the only difference. So this guy is almost the same as the first guy, except he's got a shield and this sticks and stones attack. So he's like a little bit better than this militia. But again, very little difference in these guys. You also have the wet one, who's your kind of underwater recruit. And then you have the cavern guard, who's kind of your elite basic troop of sorts, and he's not bad. He's got good strength. He's got a glaive. This glaive will chop through armor, which is really nice. But the problem with all of these guys is they have really crappy attack and defense skill. Their combat speed is pretty low. Their morale is like okay. The protection is like it varies a lot between their armor and stuff like that. In general, they're pretty flimsy, and being big doesn't really help them in this case because the bigger they are, the easier it is for them to get hit. And the fact that their skills are so crappy, even with the spear, their attack skill like really sucks. They're going to get hit a lot and kind of die in droves. And that's a big problem with Agartha. Your units tend to just die off very quickly without any support. Because consider these guys have basically human level stats, as in like a really weak, like flimsy human, slow human, even slower than a human in some cases, but they're size 4, so they take a lot of damage. Even your big guys, these are size 6. They have barely any better stats. Their speed is still slow. They have weak attack and defense. Their morale's not that great. They're really like suffering that. They just have a lot of strength. So if they do manage to hit something, they're going to hit it really hard, but they have to hit it first. That's a big problem. Your giants, without a lot of the benefits that some giants have in terms of being able to hit really hard and actually have good stats in general. Like, for example, Nephil giants have great stats. Makone giants can, not only they can fight in formation to kind of take away from the disadvantage of being a giant, but they also have great stats and good armor as well. So these guys tend to suffer a lot, and a big problem with this nation in general is trying to circumvent these issues with your sacreds. They also all have really low map move. You'll notice that all of your units have really low map move, which means you're basically going to be moving one province per turn at all times. So that also slows down the game a lot. You have to really take that into account, because if you have a big army moving in one part of the map and suddenly you need support in another area really quickly, it might take like 10 turns to march that army somewhere else. So that's a big issue. As for the sacreds, these 3 are recruit anywhere. So you can consider that when you're making a blessed, that you do have recruit anywhere sacreds. These guys, not much to say about them other than that they're really beefy. They got a lot of hit points. They're very strong, and that's about it. Not much else to say about them. But if you can think about that carefully, you can probably make use of that somehow. I'm going to go over some ideas you can use to take advantage of these guys to hopefully do something with them. The stone hurlers, I don't know. I don't really use them. I guess you could. You could do something really meme tier, like a precision plus. Have like these guys sniping enemies with boulders. Do like a far shot precision thunder weapons blast or something really insane like that, or whatever you want to do. But I would probably never do it, to be honest. I don't think it's worth to do something incredibly meme tier like that. That probably will not benefit you at all. The last one is your capital only sacred. He's not too much better than the ancient one. I mean, in terms of his stats, he's a little bit better, a little bit stronger. The main good thing about him is he has quite good armor, and he has the obsidian glaive. So if you need a magic weapons guy, this is your guy. And since you're going to be expanding underground for the most part, in Dominion 6, the underground expansion is really tough. And there's a lot of provinces with like spectral units or ethereal units. So you do need some magic weapons to deal with these underground issues. So the fact that you have this guy available is great, because he's kind of like your tech unit for getting magic weapons. So you don't really need to worry about a magic weapons bless. You could take one if you really want. I probably wouldn't, since this guy is available and he's not that expensive. I mean, none of your sacreds are that expensive as far as sacreds go. So I think it is worth considering these guys. Last sacred is also, I'd say, probably your star. I mean, this is probably one of the best sacred units you have. The Great Alm, and I really love to get as many of these guys as possible, mainly because they're fairly cheap and they have this Mind Blast attack. So these guys are pretty flimsy. If they get attacked, they're probably going to die fairly quickly. But they have Spirit Sight, so they'll be able to see any kind of ethereal units or like stealthy hidden units or whatever like that. And they also have this Mind Blast. So recruitable Mind Blasters are amazing. This is one reason I love Relay, the fact that you get Mind Blasters really easily. So this is the main reason Agartha can stand up at all in the early game. You get a bunch of these guys and whatever kind of units you want in front, maybe some of your generic units, maybe some of your sacreds, whatever you're going for. I like to get a couple Ohms and maybe a couple Steel Guards to deal with some of the ghosts and other kind of units underground. And then a bunch of maybe some of these guys, like whatever Pale One Warriors or something. And that's my main expansion force. I usually use something like that. The Ohms, even though these guys are slow and kind of flimsy, the Ulms will freeze and paralyze a bunch of your enemies with their Mind Blast attacks. And if you get a good amount of these guys, which you can pretty easily, because again, they're not expensive, and if you take a pretty high Dominion score, you should be able to get a lot of them. They can make expansion a lot less painful for you. Beyond that, you have your underwater recruits. Not much to say about these guys. Just, you do have a Recruit Anywhere Underwater Sacred. These guys are a little bit cheaper than the generic Ancient one. You do have a Spear. Again, not much to say about these guys, just that they're a little bit cheaper than the kind of generic Ancient one. I mean, these guys could have a place for you if you really want to go for like a sacred heavy gameplay style, or you have some kind of funny bless where you need a lot of sacreds, which is possible. There are some options for that. Like this could be a good option. Main thing about these guys is you really want them to have a lot of hit points. Like all the Sacred Agarthans, they just are a big sack of hit points, and that's kind of one thing you should consider. Let's take a look at the commanders now. So you have your two generic commanders, your Scout and your generic commander. Not much to say about that. You have the Troglodyte Lord, and I actually quite like this guy. He's basically just a Troglodyte leader. He's got Trample. He's basically the same as the normal Troglodyte, but a bit better stats. One thing you can actually do that's kind of funny is just make a cheap black steel plate for this guy, like the full body plate, and use him as a very light thug. Like one or two of these guys, each with a black steel plate, can take out pretty fairly well defended provinces. They can take out PD pretty well by themselves, as long as there's not too much. So just get a couple of these guys out, get a couple black steel plates out, and they can cause a lot of trouble. So these guys are actually quite fun because they're really, really cheap to equip. Like again, a full black steel plate is all you really need for this guy. They don't even have a head, so they can avoid getting shot in the head, and they'll just run around and trample any kind of human-sized unit. So if you're fighting a province with a lot of human-sized province defense, a bunch of these guys with a bit of armor could be pretty useful for you. You have the Ancient Lord. Besides the fact that he's your kind of big army leader, I wouldn't really use him that much. A lot of your Agarthan commanders have really shit leadership, so the only reason for this guy is really if you want to lead a big army, which is sometimes you do need that, so it's good that you have him here, but beyond that, there's not really much else. I wouldn't really thug him ever, so I don't know. I wouldn't consider it. And he is Recruit Anywhere, so I guess if you really want to thug him, you could. He's sacred too, but I think you'd better off thugging with the Oracles, to be honest. Next, you have your two generic Recruit Anywhere mages. You have the Engraver, who's your kind of cheapo mage. He's a good researcher. He's a really good researcher. Adept Researcher 2, and then Earth 1. So Earth 1 is not that useful for any kind of like battle magic or anything, but he's a really efficient researcher. He's only 95 gold, very, very, very cheap, and he has the Adept Researcher +2. So if you're in magic scales and you really want like really, really efficient research, this guy's a great option as well. And if you're in drain scales as well, this guy can kind of cover that. So you do have that option if you want to go drain. But I tend to prefer to go magic with Agartha since I do use a lot of magic spells, summonings, and going magic scales tends to make those a little bit more gem efficient. Next is your Ulm Sage. This guy's capital only, but also you can get him in drip caves, which is like a lot of caves. There's a lot of drip caves usually underground. Depends how big the underground is. Not much to say about him. He's a good researcher as well. He's no randoms, but he's always Water 2, Earth 1. And this lets you cast a lot of useful spells for him. I wouldn't recruit too many of these guys, but if you really want to, you can. I'd rather get the Earth Reader, who's Earth 2 off the bat, and he has a random chance for either fire, water, or death. These are all kind of your national magics. I'd rather get this guy for a guaranteed water path than this guy, but I mean, if you really want like a Water 2 for something, you could get this guy, and he's not bad either. He does have the Mind Blast as well, so if you want like a Mind Blasting commander, this guy could be useful for something. I skipped over the Earth Reader. This is kind of your go-to generic mage. You're going to be recruiting him in pretty much every fort possible. He's an Earth 2, which is great, means you can use Earth Power, and then he has all your national magics. This guy can cast most of your national summons, national spells, so he's just all around really good, and he's got this Fortune Teller, which means, at least in my case, I tend to not really be bothered about taking misfortune, because these guys can prevent bad events from happening. All right, next one, you have the 3 Oracles. Now, these guys are all capital only, and these are what you should be recruiting every turn once you can afford them. You could return, they all have some use, so you can kind of swap between recruiting some of them each turn. I tend to try to get a good number of each of them. Again, they all have different uses. For example, the Oracle of Waters, he's not as good of a army caster, army leader, or thug, but he can cast a lot of your very useful national spells, including one that's really, really important for Agartha. So you should get at least a couple of these guys. He can also be boosted up to higher water magic to do some fighting underwater, for example, summoning living water or other kind of big water battle spells. So it's good to get a few of these guys. I do like them specifically for a few useful spells, which I'll talk about later. The Oracle of Subterranean Fire is also quite good. He can also cast a few of your national spells. His randoms are just Fire, Earth. All of these guys' randoms are just the same as they already have. This guy can either get a Water Earth, this guy can get a Fire Earth, and this guy can get a Death Earth. So they can either be Earth 4, which is also pretty good, or 2 of their unique magic path. So this guy's also quite good. This guy can make a decent thug as well and do some evocations, some fire evocations. If he gets Fire 2, I'd probably use him for battle magic because he can do things like Phoenix Power and boost himself up in fire a little bit more. So this guy could be quite useful as well. And of course, they're all oracles too. The last one is the Oracle of the Dead. Again, he's the same as the other ones, except with death magic instead, and same kind of randoms as well. He's an Oracle. All their stats are basically the same. This guy is an undead leader. All your death mages will be undead leader as well, so you can lead around your national undead units. This guy could be good for anything. He could be good for casting spells, or even as a good thug, since he can cast some useful spells, like invulnerability or other kind of things to buff himself up a little bit. So this guy could also be a useful thug. Both these guys, the fire and the death guy, are pretty good thugs. I think the death is a little bit better because he can use invulnerability if he buffs himself a little bit. And he can also, summon skeletons to help him support himself on his own. In general, both of them are pretty good, and you can use both these guys for leading armies. I usually keep the water guy in the fort. I don't get too many of these guys, but I do use them for some purposes. And then last one is just your generic underwater commander. Now, one last thing I'll say about all your units. All your units are cold-blooded, so it's definitely worth to take a heat scale as Agartha and be careful when fighting in any kind of cold dominion. Let's take a look at some god ideas. So I have a few ideas for what could be a good god design. Now, there's a few kind of theories I've seen about making a god for Agartha and making him bless. You could really focus on maximizing your shitty sacreds. You recruit any more sacreds, trying to get their attack skill up, trying to get their defense up, trying to make them faster and so on. But I feel that's like, it's kind of like a waste of points, basically. You're trying to get them to a point where they're just mediocre rather than playing to their strengths. And I think the biggest strength of these guys is their just being big meat sacks. So one kind of bless I like, and actually this is a bless I've taken online before as well, something like this with regeneration and, let me go negative, fate weaving. So something like this is pretty good. The regeneration is great because since they are quite high HP, they'll regenerate a lot of their damage pretty quickly. And fate weaving as well will help them avoid getting hit too much and make them a little bit more survivable. So both these together work quite well. I may even consider going a little bit into Earth to get, okay, that's pretty good, to get something like, where is it? Unbreakable. Now, Unbreakable is a bless that I think a lot of people sleep on, to be honest. I don't see that many people take it. But in a case like this, where you have a lot of very high HP sacreds, that you hopefully don't want to die. You hopefully want them to stick around a long time, especially if you're giving them a bless like this, Fate Weaving, Regeneration, and then Unbreakable, basically so they don't come up with tons and tons of injuries all the time. So this just makes them a lot more survivable, a lot more longer lasting, and hopefully avoid them getting tons and tons of afflictions building up over time. So this could be good. Now, this is really expensive, so you kind of have to pay for this somehow. With this kind of god, you may have to be a bit careful with what you do. I don't really know what I should dump in this case. I may have to dump some things. That would be very close. Like maybe this would be okay. Like this could be okay. For you, I don't think you really need order that much. I don't think you really need productivity that much. None of your guys really need a lot of resources. I mean, the most resource-intensive guys are like 20 resources. I never find myself pinched as Agartha. I find I do need recruitment points a little bit more. You could go a little bit lower. Can you afford that? I don't know. I don't know if it's worth it. Something like that could be okay. Like this could be pretty good. You can even get rid of Unbreakable if you want some more points and just keep Fate Weaving Regeneration. Just know your units are going to build up afflictions pretty quickly. Another kind of more meme tier idea could be something very similar to what I just did. Again, regeneration, but instead of Fate Weaving to make your units more survivable, you can take something like Blood Vengeance. Now, this gives you a lot more points to work with, so you can go much higher Dom score, like maybe like that. You can even drop it a little bit if you want to boost your scales a little bit more. So something like this could be okay. You can play around with this a little bit more, but regeneration will obviously suit you well because you have very high HP Sacreds. High Dominion score means you recruit a lot of Sacreds. And Blood Vengeance means whenever your units get attacked, anyone attacking them will take damage. We'll have to roll magic resist and then take damage. So something like this could work pretty well. And this would be pretty funny, to be honest. If you have a big mass of your big dumb Sacreds, there's tons of HP and they get hit by some magic attack, whoever is hitting them is going to take tons of damage. It's going to make it very brutal to cut through a huge force of your Sacreds. If you don't want to spring for Blood Vengeance, you could go a little bit cheaper and go for, Blood Bond. This is another way to make them a little bit more survivable, and this also gives you some more points to play with. If you want to go, I don't know, neutral Misfortune or something. I don't think Misfortune's a big problem as Agartha. Maybe I'd go Magic. Or, maybe like that could be okay. I don't know, whatever you want to do. You could play around with the scales a little bit more. The main things I like is having some growth. I'd maybe like to go to growth 2. Maybe go in Magic 2 if I can afford it. Misfortune I don't care about that much. I do like to have at least neutral order, if not positive. And everything else is not a big deal. I could be willing to dump it a bit. You could do some funny things in the late game too if you want to get into things like, what can I say? If you want to get into like communions, you'd have to really design a god around that as well, since your god doesn't really have that option. What you could do is use some kind of spells like hidden underneath to get access to astral magic, and then start making crystal gear to get into communions. With this, you can make a turbo communion pretty easily with a couple of your oracles with crystal matrices. All of them working together in communion. Because they're so beefy with a bless like this, they're going to be really, really tough, and you can do some really crazy communion stuff with that. But that's super late game. You really have to tech into that, like with a lot of other features. Either way, those are some ideas. I'm going to go through some of the spells and kind of options for research first, and then we'll take a look at some games I've been playing. All right, here we are in the Dominion Mod Inspector, and I'll go through some of these things I've highlighted. Now, this is a few different spells, mostly not battle spells, but mostly rituals that might be useful for you. A few in-battle spells you can think of. Let me go through those first. So 2 of them here, Living Earth and Living Water. Both these are very similar. Living Earth will summon a ton of Earth elementals. Living Water summons a ton of Water elementals. This is like kind of a mid to late game goal. You should be researching Conjuration anyways. So once you get to Conjuration 6, this is something that's pretty easy for you to cast. I mean, Living Earth is really easy to cast. Living Water, not too difficult to boost up to Water 4. An Oracle of Water with level 2. You can give him a Robe of the Sea and then a Water Band. And you can get to level 4 pretty easily. Or even just with level 3, you can give him some gems, and then he can maybe cast this. But these are both really, really useful for supplementing your armies into the mid to late game. I mean, especially Living Earth, getting a bunch of these big tramplers is great. And, you know, these can really change the course of a battle. So this is definitely a big goal for you. Other kind of in-battle spells are single target attack spells like Incinerate and Frozen Heart. These are also really easy for you to cast. Frozen Heart a bit easier. Incinerate, not that easy. It does take level 3, but if you have a level 2 Fire Mage like your Oracle of Fires, he can use Phoenix Power to boost up to level 3 and then cast Incinerate. Frozen Heart's a little bit more manageable. All of your Water 1 Little Earth, what are those guys called? All of your level 1 Water Mages that you probably will be recruiting a lot of can cast Frozen Heart. You get a bunch of these guys in the back, just becoming a big Frozen Heart battery. They can quickly take out a lot of units and a lot of commanders with just the spell. So once you get to Alt 6, and Alteration is another good path for you to research. So Alt 6, you can get Frozen Heart and start spamming this to really bother people. A few other things we can think about. That's all the kind of in-battle spells I wanted to highlight. Let's take a look at some of the ritual spells. So a few useful kind of economy spells you could think of are these 3. First of all, Earthblood Deepwell. This is just a Earth Gem generator. So if you cast this in underground, which you should be, you'll be getting quite a lot of earth gems per turn. You should already be getting a lot of earth gems per turn. I'll show you a game I'm playing where I haven't really been side searching much, but I'm getting like 20 earth gems per turn without any special things like this. But this is excellent for you as Agartha. You really should be trying to get this to maximize the number of earth gems you're getting, because you're basically going to be using a lot of them for all your spells and a lot of summons and things like that. Next one is Riches from Beneath. It's just a big economy bonus. You get a huge bonus to resources and income from basically every province you have with your Dominion. This comes in Enchantment 6. It's really easy for you to cast. And again, another goal you should be going for as Agartha. Another one with Construction. Construction is another path you should be researching. And with Construction 6, you can do Forge the Ancients, which gives a huge reduction to magic gem cost. And all your units are basically working as if they're Master Smith +1. One more spell I'll look at is Crumble. Now this comes in Alteration 6 as well. And this is a good way to really pop forts if you're having a hard time with them. Now the good thing about the Pale ones is they have a siege bonus, so a bunch of them will be able to break forts pretty easily. But if you really, really want to hit them really quickly, cast Crumble on it once, and that fort will be gone very quickly. At, I think it's Alteration 7, you also get Iron Walls to be able to boost your own forts to make it really, really painful to tear them down. So Crumble plus Iron Walls together makes you really, really difficult to deal with, because you can pop forts really quickly. A big group of Pale ones plus a single Crumble will be able to take down a fort, even a high-level fort, really fast. And then Iron Walls on your own fort will be able to hold it up quite a lot. Let's take a look at some more summon spells. So I'll look at these three in enchantment. The Hidden In spells, Hidden in Sand and Hidden Underneath, are both really easy for you to cast. All of your Oracles of the Dead can easily cast this with no problem. And the main reason you want this, you do get a lot of these other units, but the main reason you want this is for the magic diversity. Now this will help you break into Astral Magic. All of these guys, like for example, the Dust Priest has its chance to roll for Astral. Fire and Earth and Death are not really that useful to you, but if he gets Astral, that's great, because that means you can break into Astral and start making Crystal Gear. Hidden Underneath is the same, just this one's cast in a cave. Where's the Release Sage? This guy, again, has a lot of chances to get Astral Magic, so again, this is your way to break into Astral if you really want to. It's fairly expensive, but I mean, you can cast this a few times and hopefully you'll get lucky with an Astral Random. This guy has a lot of randoms too, so maybe this guy's a little bit better to get Astral. The other guy, what was the other guy? I think I closed already, but he had a 100% chance for 2 in Fire, Earth, or Astral. So that's kind of like a little bit less chance, but you're guaranteed an Astral 2 mage if he does roll that, which is pretty good. So either way, both of those are pretty useful for you. Hidden in Snow is a little bit harder to cast because you need 3 water and then 1 death. However, there is some of your heroes will have this combination of water death, so it's not impossible for you to get this. I think one of your heroes called Lapis of the Closed Council, he will have the water death crosspath, so it'll be easy for him to do this. And then he has similar kind of randoms as well. I mean, this guy's not as useful for you because he has things basically you already have, but this is another option too if you really want to go through this. Probably less useful than the Hidden in Sand, Hidden Underneath spells. Lastly, I want to take a look at some of these summonable units, which could be useful for you. Agartha units are not that great, so you really want to switch over to having a lot of summonable units by the mid to late game. And your national summons are really good. Plus, you have a lot of options in terms of just generic summons. 2 of them we can look at here, Claymen and Terracotta Army. Both these are really easy for you to cast. Claymen, a decent number of units, and all these have a regeneration, I believe. Do they regenerate? Oh, no, sorry, reconstruction. So it's kind of equivalent to regeneration for an inanimate unit. So these guys are pretty durable, and you can get quite a lot of them very cheaply. You should be able to get a lot of water gem income as Agartha anyways. So casting a bunch of these guys can be pretty useful for you. Another one is Terracotta Army. This guy's also quite cheap. You should be getting a lot of fire gem income as well. These guys don't have the same kind of regeneration as the others, but they have a long spear, and they're generally a little bit better than the Claymen in terms of their attack ability. So these guys are another option for buffing up your armies. Some other options in construction are Clockwork Soldiers and Mechanical Men. So these will be able to summon a bunch of units. The Clockwork Soldiers are pretty good. but they tend to die off pretty quickly, so you kind of want to use them immediately, otherwise they'll just stop working fairly soon in the battle. You can see their exhaustion ramps up pretty quickly, but still, since they're quite cheap and really easy for you to cast, you should have tons of Earth Gems as Agartha. They could be nice for buffing up your armies and making quick use of in a battle. Mechanical Men is pretty similar. I don't think they have the same, no, they don't have the same kind of exhaustion. So these guys are a little bit better by the time you get to Construction 6. You could kind of switch over to using these guys. These guys are quite good. They have a lot of resists. They're very strong and very good units in general. So these are really great kind of chaff units you can summon a lot of. And they're not too expensive either. For 15, about 1 Earth Gem per unit. This is kind of a meme tier one. You have the Crusher. If you play Conquest of Elysium, these guys are pretty funny. If you play the what is that? I think the Alchemist or something, or whatever that class is, you can get a bunch of these guys. These guys are kind of funny. I mean, they're a big giant unit. They're not too expensive, and they're pretty easy for you to get. You can get a few of these guys if you really want to, just to trample around and cause trouble. They're not that useful, but they're pretty funny, and they could be good with like some buffs as well. If you give this guy with one of your oracles, or a couple of these guys with one of your oracles, you can buff them up and make them pretty damaging. But again, they're pretty niche in terms of their usefulness. Last one is the Goyim, or I should say Golem construction. This is kind of something you should be making into the mid to late game. This is why you'd want to break into Astro Magic to make these guys. These guys can be a great late game thug option, and will also give you pretty easy access to tons of Astral Mages. It could be a reason to go for Astral on your God, if you can manage it. That's also why I like the Monolith, because he comes with Earth Astral crosspaths already. So that's really great for you as Agartha, and you definitely want Astral Magic as Agartha. Plus he also gives you Nature, which is useful as well for different things. But definitely Earth Astral is useful for you, useful crosspath for you, and it opens this up as a late game option. So making a lot of these guys to be your Goyim slaves could be useful into the late game. Lastly, I want to highlight some items you can construct. Now, if you want to make a very basic thug, you can get your Oracle, one of your Oracles, maybe Oracle of Fire or Oracle of the Dead. Give them a Firebola and a shield, maybe like a Charcoal Shield or a Shield of Gleaming Gold. And this guy could be a pretty decent thug. Give him like a couple units to work with, maybe a few of your Umbral units, which is one of your summons, this guy here. A couple of these guys who are ethereal and very strong ethereal units. Or maybe some of the Crusher constructions, which I mentioned before, or something else pretty beefy that he can buff. And then he can sit in the back and throw these Firebolas or cast spells, having a shield to kind of protect himself a little bit, and generally be pretty nice small raiding thug or little raid leader with a couple of units to support him. There's other options for thugs too. Really, your Oracles are pretty great thugs. You can gear them however you want. I think it'd be pretty useful. Before we move on, let's take a look at your national units. Now you have your 3 death summons, and then you have your elemental summons, which I'll highlight over here. And then you have your kind of more meme tier spells, which is basically this one. First of all, let's look at your death summons. You have Bind Umbral, Bind Penumbral, and Bind Cavern Rites. Umbral and Penumbrals are kind of a ghost unit. The Penumbral is just kind of like a little bit of a weaker version of the Umbral. They're both quite good though. They have a life drain attack, and they're ethereal, so they're really good for using into the mid to late game as well, or against any units who can't deal with ethereal. Getting a bunch of these guys, if you can only summon 1 per turn. So if you can have a bunch of your Death 1 mages summoning these guys, you can get a pretty decent force up, and generally supplement your armies quite a lot more. Cavern Rites are a kind of undead zombie unit, so these are also pretty good. You get 5 of them per cast, so these can buff up your armies a little bit and give you a little bit more flexibility. They have a cold aura as well, so some people I've seen go for a cold Agartha and really focus on Cavern Rites, but I don't know. I don't know if that's really worth it, honestly. I mean, these are also an option if you fight in cold. Cold Dominion, these guys could be a good option for you since all your pale ones are going to die off pretty quickly. So consider these guys if you ever tend to fight in a cold Dominion. Try to summon a bunch of these guys to supplement your armies. Next you have Ruak's Pack, Bathos Pack, and Living Water. So Ruak's Pack summons a bunch of these guys, the Magma Child. You have to do it in the Roots of the Earth, though, to do it. I believe so. Yeah, you have to go to the Roots of the Earth, which is your capital only. And you can summon a bunch of these guys, Magma Children, who are very good, cheap units. Only 2 Earth Gems. You get 3 of these Magma Children. And these guys are great. They have the Heat Aura, a Fire Power, and this is a big reason why you tend to prefer Fire or Heat scales as Agartha, and maybe even go for a bit of a Fire Resistance Bless so these guys don't burn your Pale 1 units. But a bunch of these guys can make quick work of Undead or anyone else who's not really equipped to deal with a very fire heavy unit like this with a Heat Aura, Fire Shield, and so on. Bathrix Pack summons a couple Earth Elementals, which could be useful if you want a few of these guys to supplement your armies. Again, you can really only use this in your capital. It has to be at the Roots of the Earth location, which is one of your capital sites. But you can summon a few Earth Elementals to supplement your armies, which is pretty nice since it comes in pretty early before you actually have the Summon Earth Elemental spell. So you can actually put a couple of these guys in your army to support them. Last one is Living Mercury. This is a really, really great unit. For early age Agartha, this is like a summonable unit, so you can include this with your forces. This works very similarly to a Water Elemental, except he also has a Poison Cloud effect. So you can use these, try to keep them away from your main units. I think, are your units poison resistant? I can't really recall, to be honest. But this guy's really great as well. You should get a bunch of these guys, again, as another option to support your armies. Last one I want to look at are these 2 spells, Mirror of Earth's Memories. This is a really excellent spell that only EA Agartha has. This is a site searching spell, but it basically does a total search for all your national paths for Earth, Fire, Water, and Death, which is basically all your important spells anyways. You can only cast it from your capital, but you should be spamming this as much as possible once you get it researched, and try to find as many sites as possible within range of your capital site, because this will give you like a full search for all of these, and you'll be able to ramp up your gem income really, really quickly, really, really easily. Only 5 water gems as well is really cheap for this spell. So this is good. Last one, this is a really, really meme tier spell. I've never seen this cast in the game except for someone who really just like doesn't care anymore. This basically destroys your capital, and I'll show you guys how this works in a second. And it summons, what can I say? It summons like a bunch of really high level units, and then also eventually a really powerful unit who's kind of like the Legion of Gods. Rather than explain this, I'm actually just going to go on and show it to you in a game. So let's go move on to that game here. All right, here's a game I was playing, and I specifically made this game. Here's my god here. Oh, I need to actually get him. Next turn, I'll have the Skull Staff and stuff to actually boost him up. But I specifically played this game to do this, to cast that spell I mentioned before, and show you how it exactly works. So not much going on in this game so far. I had a few battles. Here's a battle that went pretty well. Let's take a look at this battle. So I have a lot of air element, or these guys. Big group of alms just mind blasting. And the bless I went with here is kind of meme tier. This bless was really bad. I would not recommend this. I think my bless was unsurroundable. So awareness bless. I took a reinvig bless, and I took a speed bless. So these guys have a quickness bless as well. Here it is, swiftness. So this kind of sucked. I would not recommend taking this bless again. Let's see if I can actually check the bless. Yeah, so I took precision 2, defense skill because of swiftness, reinvigoration. I took a +1 strength, and then the awareness as well. So I thought that would kind of mitigate some of the disadvantages of these giants, and it kind of does, but I don't know if it's really not worth it, honestly. I'm fighting Therados right now, and these guys clean up, which is pretty good. The Mind Blast helps a lot. That takes out a lot of these units and freezes them up, so I can just cut through this big army. The Shard Guards are quite good with this. The Awareness Bless, I think, is not too bad. It helps prevent them getting surrounded, which is nice, because these guys get surrounded very easily and then picked to death by enemy units. So these guys survive pretty well with this. It's not that bad. But again, I'd probably rather go with one of the blesses I mentioned earlier. So there we go. Not much else here, just some battles against Province Defense. Let's see the next turn here. Next turn, I'm going to cast that spell, which is, what is it? Unleash Imprisoned Ones. So that's going to be pretty funny. It's going to blow up my capital, summon a bunch of Titans, and then eventually summon some really nasty god that's going to just go around destroying stuff. Right here, I cast a lot of Clockwork Soldiers. There's a few battles here. Failed some Ichthyids. The battle there, not much going on. Alright, so let's actually see a battle. Oh, did they take this yet? Yeah, let's see a battle here. First I want to put these guys back to researching. These guys were summoning stuff. Let's get a force of these guys. I'm going to put a bunch of these guys with one of these groups. Give them to one of these guys, I guess. Oh, they can't lead that many. Geez, who can lead like a lot of magical units? Basically none of these guys, right? They all have about 30. This guy can do 20, this guy can do 30. So let's get this guy with 30. Let's find a few more guys with 30 and give it to them. There, okay, that's enough for these guys. We have a few undead as well. Let's get this guy to lead the undead, and then these guys can lead the clockwork horrors. Maybe this guy can. So we'll put these guys up in the front so they can just run in and attack, since they will slow down pretty quickly. Ubar is sieging me here, so I want to deal with that. Cavern Rights can go on the side a little bit, and the clockwork guys can also go up here too. All right, not too bad. So let's get these 3 groups. And we will break the siege, and then we'll get these guys, break the siege, and then we'll get these guys to also move in and support them. Now, in terms of spells, I think I'm just going to have these guys do Frozen Heart. I don't really know what else to do. I'm not going to really care too much about this. I'll get them to do maybe Liquid Body, and then Frozen Heart a bunch of times. I could have them do something else, but it doesn't really matter that much. I'm just going to do something very basic. And for this guy, I don't know what he'll cast. Let's get him to do Earth Power. Then he can do some big Earth spells. Maybe he could do... Maybe he could do something like Group Ironskin. Or let's do maybe Marble Army. That'd be good. Oh, he can't do that. That's too much. Maybe he'll just do Marble Warriors. That's pretty good. He can afford that, at least. And then, what else can he do? Maybe he can do something else, like... maybe like Maws the Earth or something. That might be a bit too much for him. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. Maybe he can do Soldiers of Steel and then just cast spells. So let's just have him do that. I'll give him a few gems here. And then these guys can deal with that. These guys can attack rearmost. Let's just do attack closest. All right, so all these guys are going to attack. These guys are going to attack as well. And then let's get this guy kitted up to cast my big meme spell. So now he has the good amounts. He has Earth 6 and Death 4. So he can cast Unleash Imprisoned Ones. And this is going to blow up my capital. I hope it doesn't kill all these guys. All these guys researching. Let's get this guy. Also going to cast... Mirror of Earth's Memories. This, again, is something you should be casting just like all the time, whenever you can afford it. Just like wherever. Doesn't really matter. I'm getting a lot of gem income. You can see 16 Earth gems. Really great gem income for pretty much everything except for, I guess, air. But, you know, I don't really have any air spells, so it doesn't matter that much. Okay, so let's see how that works. This is going to blow up Agartha, and I'm going to get a bunch of Titan units, and I want to kill them very quickly so I can quickly get the Legion of Gods and show that off. I'm not going to bother with much else. This game is kind of like done, basically, so I'm not going to bother doing much else. Okay, he casts Unleash Imprisoned Ones. We'll take a look at that. Battle in Caves of Mira. The God Vessel appeared. Battle in Cold Hollows. Oh, they lost. Damn, look at that. That's a brutal battle. He's got a big force here. Ubar is really tough. He's even got his god here. So let's take a look at that battle. I want to see that. Pretty big force here. Oh, I should have moved these guys back a little bit. The clockwork guys need to go in first. I guess they do. That's fine. Damn, this is pretty bad. That's a big force there. Damn, that looked pretty close, to be honest. That looked pretty close. Just my forces had their morale break before the others. Oh, well, that's too bad. Did this guy even cast Maws the Earth? I don't know if he did. He's gonna die. Yeah, he died. I think he fatigued himself out. Oh well, too bad. That looked pretty close, but oh well. Pretty big defeat for me. Fairly close in general. Just definitely I lost a lot. Geez, the Seal Guard's got a lot of kills. I got a lot of kills in general, though. That's not too bad. All right, so let's go here. And what happened here? Let's look at this. What is that? Whoa. Tons of umbrals. This is basically my capital getting blown up. I think, what is my cap population? My population went down to 4,000. So it was way more than this. Trust me, it was way more than this before. Where did those guys even go? The God vessels. They just appeared somewhere. I saw them teleport somewhere, so I don't know where they actually went. Did they go on the land? Whoa, okay, it's dark on the above ground now. I've never actually cast this spell before because... Okay, Oracle of Corpophagy, this is my god. Oracle of Shit-Eating, God of Agartha, Guardian of the Tables of Destiny, Holder of the Windbag, the Fate of the World, the Rock has broken the seal that must not be broken. 3 gods of an early age, imprisoned by a previous Pantocrator, are unleashed and the world is covered in darkness. So, this is the world. Where was this? This is Mira. Let's go to this province. So, where is this God Vessel guy? Is he controlled by me or is he, like, neutral? I guess this guy has to be killed. Which means, okay, I don't know what. Let's see if I can lead these umbrals somewhere. Who has a big army leader? Can this guy lead like 100 of them? Gem, there's so many of these guys. Holy shit. I'm going to try to lead a bunch of these guys out of here. Where's my god? Is he here? He can lead like 200. Can he lead all of these guys? Damn, that's rough, bud. That's rough, buddy. Oof. Let's see if he can lead all of these at least. I'll take my god out of here. He can lead like 99 of these guys. Let's find another guy who can lead like a lot of them. Any guy have like a lot of undead leadership? Holy shit, there's so many. Let's get these guys, just get a bunch of these guys, lead them out, and lead 50. This guy can lead 52. Let's get that guy some. Who else can lead any? Do I have any that have undead leadership? This guy, okay. All right, I think that's it. That's rough. Oof, that's rough. Let's give my god a few more dudes. He can lead like another force here. Let's give him some alms too. All right, oof, that's rough. That's pretty crazy. Put all these in front. These guys and the shard guards can go in behind the umbrals and just hold an attack. These guys can just like fire. And all of these, I don't know, just attack. Like tons of these guys. So you get a big boost for doing this this spell. This is basically something you do if you're about to lose the game and you really want everyone to have a miserable time. You could cast this spell because not only does it make your capital basically worthless. Like my capital is fucking worthless now. It's worth nothing. I'm getting nothing for my capital. I probably can't recruit anything there. Not only that, but it gives you just a ton of like units to, I don't know, do whatever with. Like all these umbrals and penumbrals are really tough. 2, 3, 4. Okay, let's get these guys out. And I don't know, let's send them somewhere. Let's go hunt down these god vessels. It might take a while to hunt them down. I don't know where they are. There's one guy here who's taken this province. Wait for him to die. I guess I don't have control over them, do I? Are there any others around? Here's another one. Another god vessel. And where's the last one? He's somewhere around here, right? I don't see him. Must be another one somewhere. So there's one. There must be another one. Where the heck did he go? He must be here, right? Is this where he is? I don't even know. He must be somewhere. There's 3 of them around, and they all need to die to release the like ultimate god. Let's end the turn here. I'm gonna send these guys out, actually. Let's send all these guys out to fight in the surface and just like wreck some shit. All right, here's a battle with the big force of umbrals and penumbrals. Look at that. That's crazy. That's tons of these guys. This is brutal to fight against, to be honest. All of these have life during attack too. So they're just going to chew through this big force. Like, look at that. Holy hell. Now, they do, they are undead, so they will get dispelled by like any kind of undead dispelling things. But still, that's pretty funny. Look at that huge force there. So that wiped out that. Battle in the Nether. Let's keep marching these guys down. I'm going to march these guys down with these guys. The gang's all here. Let's go see if we can take out this god guy. This what is it? God vessel. See if I can take him out. I don't know where he went. Right, here's another battle with a ton of summons, a bunch of claymen and terracotta soldiers, plus some of my cavern wights. Now these guys are not affected by the cold aura, so these guys pair together quite well, and they should be able to make pretty quick work of this. I also have a bunch of elephants, just independent elephants, and this is pretty useful as well to just trample everything. Oh, I think they trampled some of my own units though, which is not very good. All right, here it is. So finally the God Vessel has been released and the Legion of Gods. And you can see even with this huge army here, they were all destroyed by this force. So this is kind of what I was going for so far. Basically, once all the God Vessels die, who are these kind of titans, they will burst out as the Legion of Gods, which is incredibly powerful. 6 Astral, 6 Death with a random for any of these. And not only teleportable, and blink ability, but just tons and tons of bonuses. True Ethereal, Fear 20, really, really powerful unit. And let's take a look at this battle because this is like insane. Let's take a look at this, and then I'm going to end the video here because I'm not going to continue with this anymore. So here they are. Here's the God Vessel by himself. Finally caught up with him. I was chasing him around forever trying to get him. And then let's see what happens when he dies. So he's going to get killed. And there we go. There's the Legion of Gods. This is one of the, probably one of the strongest units in the whole game. And this is very, very dubious worth value. So you can see I don't even control this guy. I think you can control him, but I don't know why I can't. Basically, he can just wipe out this whole force. Watch him just wipe all of this out. Yeah, he's just going to destroy everything. Blade Wind, just demolish all of these guys. And he can teleport anywhere he wants. He can blink around the map. He's really, really powerful. Is he just doing Blade Wind over and over? I think that's what he's doing, right? Oh, he has 4 water and 4 earth. I'll take a look at his randoms again. I forget what his randoms are. I think he gets a lot of randoms. Ooh, what did he cast? He cast something crazy. Where is he? Did he just disappear? Oh, there he is. Yeah, he's going to wipe all of this out. He kills every single person here. That whole huge army of Umbrals is just evaporated and gone. Like, can't do anything about that. All right, so that's pretty brutal. And I can't even control this guy. He's totally out of my control right now. So that's really, really shitty. This is like the Eater of the Dead, but even stronger and more horrible to deal with. Like, this is just going to fly around the whole map now. I don't have any control of this. It's just going to kill everything. I don't even know how you would destroy it. I think, is it even immune to, let's take a look at him again. Is it even immune to Soul Slay? It may or may not be. Huge population killer, huge fear, spirit form, truly ethereal, damage reversal, huge reinvigoration, innate spellcaster, magic power. Like, this guy is brutal to deal with. And let's take a look at his randoms. Yeah, he has +6 random, like +6 for all of these guys. So he'll get 6 extra randoms for any of these. That's insane. So he's a very, very powerful mate, very, very powerful unit. Very, very scary. And one thing you can notice here, just as a little tidbit, one of the faces is the Bat Boy, if you know who Bat Boy is, which I find kind of funny. Either way, guys, that's kind of what I was trying to show for this video. There's the Legion of Gods, if you've never seen it before. I've never actually used the spell before because it sucks. It's not useful for you. It's only something you'd use if you just are pissed off and you want to nuke the game and make everyone hate you and get banned from Discord. This is the kind of thing you'll cast. This is like close to summoning an Eater of the Dead and kitting it out, making it a profit, kitting it out with tons of gear and letting it loose on the world. This is like even worse than that probably. This will definitely get you banned from Discord. But yeah, let's move on from here. I'm going to end the video and I'll see you guys again next time. So goodbye, guys.